Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start by covering distinguishing the difference between toxic shame and normal, healthy shame. And then we're going to do, you're welcome to ask me in the chat, questions related to that, to CPTSD, and to the video I just released on mental health self-diagnoses. We'll go for about an hour and 10. And then towards the end, we'll just make the questions progressively sillier and sillier and sillier. But we will start in a sober and moderately academic way. Are we all in agreement? I'm assuming you're saying yes. You can't say no. This isn't a democracy. Not interested in democracies anymore. It is what I perceive as being a benevolent dictatorship. And that's all that counts. So the question at first would seem complicated. You know, you have toxic shame and then you have normal shame or healthy shame, we should say. You would never want to extract shame from a person. So there's an interesting distinction to make first. We've got to a point linguistically where I think people just think, oh no, all shame is bad. You don't shame people. Shaming people is the worst thing. And then toxic shame has been around as a powerful, rightly so, concept for a while. And so we think all shame is bad. Well, shame doesn't feel nice, but you wouldn't want to extract all shame from a human being. Like if you imagine a tower, a structure, you know, those games you play in pubs, and then you pull one thing out, like, what's it called? Kaplunk, or I don't know. And you pull the one thing out and it makes the whole tower fall down. A personality bereft of shame becomes, well, it is a personality that's now functioning without restraint. Over time, the tendency towards fairly obnoxious traits would develop unhindered. You know, they would just carry on. So healthy shame is a good thing. It restrains us from doing things that are untoward. You could say that it's almost like healthy superego function. Similarly, with a culture like the one we have in the United Kingdom, when we remove shame and we become culturally shameless, we sink into previously unforeseen levels of depravity and moral degeneration, and then celebrate the depravity and celebrate the degeneration like we just did a good and clever thing. So that's shame. Healthy shame. Toxic shame can best be understood as an emotional flashback. If we understand it as an emotional flashback, we can contextualize it within the rest of the work in a way that becomes, we can just plonk it in, plonk that piece in, and it becomes very, very simple. So toxic shame would be unjustified feelings that are not proportionate or appropriate to the scenario that you're in now. So the definition of toxic shame gives us the means for distinguishing between toxic shame and shame that is potentially psychologically healthy. Shame that you would, well, you never want to feel shame, but that what you do is you moderate your behavior so you never feel shame. And then you're living a, you know, one would hope a good life, but you don't want to eradicate shame. That would be a mistake. So what I said was, for toxic shame, for a loose, broad but functional definition, we would say you are feeling shame that is not appropriate or proportionate to the scenario that you're in today. So if you walk into a post office to deliver a parcel and there are two windows open and there's two women at two windows, and one of the women looks up at you and then looks down and keeps writing, and you took her looking up at you as an invitation to go to her window, and then when you get to her window she goes, "I'm closed," and then you're flooded with shame and you're like, "Oh, I'm such a buffoon, everybody is looking at me, I am awful. I wish that I could be eradicated with the laser beam right now and just be blown into smithereens and end this painful moment." That wouldn't be appropriate or proportionate. It's not appropriate or proportionate to the scenario. I'm looking at my whiteboard. You know, I love my whiteboard. You know why I like using this? Because I think we all play the adult game and you use your words and everything, and everybody goes, oh yes, 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 I know what that is, I understand what that is. But sometimes it's nice to have it written out in a way that just makes it just super, super crystal clear. So I'm saying appropriate, propor, appropriate, and sorry, it's backwards. Appropriate and proportionate. So when we say appropriate, it's not like morally judgmental, like that's not appropriate. It's, does this emotion match the scenario I'm in? I've made a silly mistake at the post office. It's vaguely embarrassing. I don't think I should be crushed with a sense of toxic shame. Is it proportionate? Well, the scale and the strength of the shame I'm feeling is so strong that no, it's not appropriate, and no, it's not proportionate. So at that point, if we were discussing shame, I would say that's toxic shame. Where has that come from? It's probably come from either neglect or outright abuse in childhood, where a lot of shaming tactics were used to control the child. Because if you're an abusive or lazy or drunken or drug addicted or emotionally dysregulated parent, and you can't be bothered to go through the rigmarole of parenting decently, and it is a rigmarole, it's hard work. What you can do that works very well on children, once they've hit a certain age, if they're younger than a certain age, you can't shame them because they have no shame. They're completely shameless. But once they hit a certain age, a lazy way of verbally abusing them into obedience is to use guilt and to use shame, and to fundamentally make them feel, to use the psychoanalytic language, like a bad object. A good psychoanalytic language, I'm sorry, it's like this. Bad object. If I've internalized the notion that I'm a bad object in the eyes of my parents, that means I'm not lovable. A good object, I would be worthy and well taken care of and beloved, but I'm not. I'm a bad object. So to use different linguistic structures, we could say that people who are walking around saying, oh my God, I feel so much toxic shame, that would be the same as the claim, I've internalized the idea that I'm a bad object, and now I'm being continuously attacked by a colonized, toxified superego that's reminding me of what a bad object I am, and the predominant emotion is shame. All victims of childhood abuse feel shame. All victims of childhood abuse and or neglect feel inappropriate and disproportionate amounts of shame. It's a key foundational element of codependency. And so there isn't like a grouping of people where we would say, oh, they're the ones who feel, they're the shame ones, we're the sad ones, we're the angry ones, we're the shame ones. It's all shame. It's all shame. Shame is calcified, ossified, putrid shame, because it's not novel. It's not the shame of now. Like I'm in public and I go, I'm like, oh, I thought that would be funny, and it's not funny. That's shameful now. But if I'm like, I misspell something on a whiteboard, and then I'm like crushed with shame, that's not now. That's not now shame. Can you just let me know in the comments if that makes sense, the difference between now shame and past shame? Because I said a couple of years ago, there was a seminar, there's a few videos where I said repeatedly, it's narcissists are not shameless. They're actually full of shame, but it's calcified shame. So it doesn't show up as the shame that most people would feel, because it's not now shame, calcified, ossified. It's sort of grown over. It's like a bone that's damaged, and it makes sense. Okay, good. And it over time. So is it the same emotion? Somatically, we recognize it as the same, but it doesn't feel exactly the same, and it doesn't motivate you to action in the same way. You see, emotions motivate us to action, or they motivate us to inaction. Just a quick, brief point here, and then we'll move into questions. When you say to me, when human A says to human B, how do I, human B, I'm human B, how do I, sorry to do it like this, but I really want to be as clear as possible. So human A says to human B, how do I know in my body and their body? Because it's a feeling. It's in your body. You can't like go, oh, I feel depressed. Where do you feel it? In the chair over there. Is that where you feel depression? Yes, in the cushion on the it's in my sneakers. All my depression. No, it's in your body. So when I feel toxic shame, when I feel shame, how do I know if it's toxic or if it's healthy? In other words, when I feel a feeling in my somatic space, person B, how do I know what that feeling means? Now, person B can't feel the emotions and the somatic sensations of person A, right? So how do that would require a psychic communication, our brains to like Vulcan mind meld, for us to feel that, but we can't do that because the brain is hermetically sealed in the skull, and you can try and take them out and rub them together, but then both the subjects would die, and then you would be arrested. You'd be like, I'm trying to break the intersubjectivity barrier, you narrow-minded oiks, and you're like, yeah, you just murdered two people. They dared. You can't put those eggs back together again. So the point I'm making here is don't jump over the complexity of the question. Think about it. Like, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to ask another subject, because we all have subjective experience, what the feelings in my body mean. And how. But it works. That's how genius we are, despite the fact that our brains are hermetically sealed. My brain can never touch your brain. My brain can never touch your brain physically. But I can approximate your experience through language. And language, in a sense, gives us psychic abilities. In a sense, it doesn't literally give us psychic abilities. It's the channel's not moving in that direction. We're not doing that. But just think about it. And when you think that way and you're saying, how do I feel what I feel in my body? And then person B goes, well, is the emotion appropriate or proportionate? And then you go, actually, it was inappropriate. Wow, it was really, really disproportionate. Okay, that's probably toxic shame. We don't really talk about the somatic space because it's kind of, I suppose it's almost a bit like alternative therapy, yoga-y, Tai Chi-ish, and psychologists want to be doctors, or this field used to want to be doctors, and we're not really supposed to, but we should. We should. Like, shame for me feels like burning acid rain it goes through my chest and my shoulders, and then it spreads like napalm. Oh, that's really horrible. Well, that's quite poetic, isn't it? Why am I saying this to you? I want you to have an awareness, of how difficult it is to convey subjective experience, because I'm not going to bash psychology all the time. I love psychology. I want to, it's not from, I want to destroy it. If anything, I'd like to, if you're not destroying, redeem, make it stronger again, reinforce it, redeem it in some sense. And I think this is how we do it, by putting practical pieces of philosophy in. You go, I don't know what your feelings are. Can you tell me? Do any of you feel like shame feels like being washed in a bath of toxic fluids? Does it make you feel like you're melting? Does it make you feel like you're dissolving? Is it painful? Do you feel it in the skin? Do you feel it in the chest? Do you feel it in your face? Do you feel it? We should be having these conversations. We should be talking about these things so that we can appreciate that. And my second point Sorry to play the old record. You've all heard it from me so many times before. This is why I want you to become emotionally literate, because the emotional literacy exercise says, what am I feeling? What am I feeling in my body now? How do I feel in my somatic space? Tune in, because you know what would be I didn't write down the name of the person who asked this question. I asked on the YouTube community, please write out your questions, and this was the top most voted one. And I didn't take a note of your name. I'm sorry, but it would be a terrible shame if we went into how to identify toxic shame, only to find at some point during like an imaginary therapeutic process, there was never toxic shame. You never felt toxic shame. You actually were dealing with huge amounts of rage, but because you're a woman and you were trained that girls don't get angry and that anger is an ugly emotion, that triggered you into shame, but it's actually rage you felt. And the secondary emotional flashback was shame. It would be a shame. It would be a waste of our time. So tune in, listen to your body. Actually maybe try writing it down. Like, how does this feeling feel? It's a burning sensation. It's a sensation. Excuse me. I went to the gym. I rushed and then I necked a load of protein so I could do this. And now my body is furious with me. That's what's happening for me somatically. Vanilla flavored protein shake. And how do you feel? I feel very, very vanilla all the way through to my toxically shamed core. We need to have these kinds of conversations, and I want you to have an appreciation and respect, a respect for your subjective experience that is boundaried. So you say, this is my lived experience. This is my subjective experience. Journal it. Take it to your therapist. Do your dream analysis. Write poetry about it. Draw. Make music. Whatever you want. Go deep and be like, okay, now I fully grasp what my subjective experience is. Impose it on nobody. Impose it on nobody. We have no right. We have no right to do that. To demand that the world change because I'm individually feeling this or that to a nuance is tyrannical. It's unreasonable, but it's very important in a therapeutic context. Tune into your body, tune into your emotions. Don't be afraid of your emotions. Don't be afraid of how you feel. Think critically. You can only think critically when you're in a good relationship with your emotions. Now, 17 minutes and 55 seconds, still sober, still sensible questions, either CPTSD or related to the video on mental health self-diagnosis. Over to you. Make them a sentence long, have them end in a question mark, and I will do my best to answer them. Real Town Boy asks, Richard Grannon, question, when do the questions start? Good question. Joey Gouda, sober what? Sober metaphorically speaking. I don't mind if you're not sober. Mega says, is it possible to never have felt shame? The closest I've felt is embarrassment, perhaps a sense of treason of oneself. Nothing as close as you describe. Maybe that's my shame. I have no idea, my friend. Sorry, I couldn't answer that. I don't know whether there are people alive who've never felt shame. It seems unlikely. How do you deal with survivor's shame, sometimes called survivor's guilt? My partner died early this year. I'm sorry to hear that. Nothing I could have done to change things, but I still feel guilty for being alive while he isn't. In the context that you've asked the question, which is a YouTube live rather than face-to-face therapy, the answer I can give you is, of course, no. I could spend the next hour and a half giving you an answer, and it would still be trite, 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 in the face of the trauma that you've described. So I'm in a double bind. So I'm just going to accept that my answer is going to be trite and petty in the face of what you've suffered. Nobody should sit and pretend that they have solutions that they can fire out from the hip that are going to help people in any meaningful way with this kind of trauma, which is one of the most traumatic things a human being can live through. But I am going to give you something because you've asked the question. My recommendation would be to get comfortable in the emotional space that you're in so that you become skilled in the art of grieving, because you will be grieving. You will be grieving for some time. And there is an amount of grieving that you need to do. Let's pretend that metaphorically there is a reservoir with a certain amount of water in it that must be processed by you. I don't know you, but as a human being, I've no reason to assume, you know, you're pH neutral to me, so I wouldn't wish suffering, undue suffering on anyone. If the process could be made less torturous, I think we can all agree that that's better. The process can be made somewhat less torturous if you lean into the skill of grieving and the skill of being able to process your emotions. That takes time to develop, but it's a good investment of your time. And you think in the long term, you do have just an amount. You've probably already had grief counseling. You'll know, those of us who've lost people know this. Comes in waves. It's unpredictable. You'll never know what the triggers are. You'll think you've processed this, that, and the other thing, and then you'll get hit with a liver punch from out of the blue from something else. And I think really, more broadly speaking, I would take it as an opportunity to explore where you're up to spiritually and religiously. So, final trite answer that hopefully, you know, will be meaningful and useful for you and other people listening. When we have major trauma in our lives, one of the things that dictates our capacity to move on from that trauma is how well we integrate the story. Now, I know that this isn't a story, this isn't a script, this is your life, but we make narratives of events. It behooves you to make that narrative consciously and carefully. Who are you? What happened? Why did it happen? Who was he? What is the story of your life? And how do you conceptualize the characters in the narrative arc? That will determine the way and the speed and the results of this recovery process, which I would hope would leave you a stronger and wiser person, because it can and does leave people weaker and more embittered. So it's a risky moment in a person's life, a very, very risky moment. It should be handled very carefully. And beyond that, I suggest you get face-to-face help with a qualified and experienced professional who specializes in this. Okay. To the next question. Frozen 8. Hi, Richard. Hello. After years of no contact, I still sometimes wake up in the morning with feeling deeply ashamed of myself for not having my toxic parents in my life. How do I manage these flashbacks? Well, what I would recommend you do is that you do emotional literacy exercises, one a day, every day, for at least 30 days on your parents, because there's something there that you haven't looked at and that you haven't processed. And reading in between the lines of your question, I think this hasn't just happened for the last week. This has been happening for some time. That's why people ask questions of me framed like this, because it's been ongoing for a long time. So why has this been going on for such a long time? Why does anything that we know how to resolve but don't resolve continue for a long time? Why? Why? Usually because it lies outside the purview of the conscious mind. It lies in the unconscious mind. What is the unconscious mind? What is the terrain of the unconscious mind? Well, one element of the terrain of the unconscious mind is the enforcement of unconscious rules and taboos. I'm just gonna go right out on a limb here, and I could be wrong, but I suspect I'm not. You won't grieve fully for your parents because you see it as a taboo. You see letting go of them as a taboo. You see that as being a betrayal. You see fully relinquishing them as Dave and Sarah, as instead of mum and dad or whatever their names are, as some great act of betrayal. And you remember from the commandments, thou shalt honor thy father and mother, which was from the Book of the Dead, from the Egyptians, where they stole it from. They'll wind people up. But the question that was asked at the gateway to the afterlife by, I can't remember who, he weighs your heart against the weight of a feather on a scale. He says, did you steal? No, I did not steal. Did you kill? No, I did not kill. Did you honor your father and mother? You can look this up. And then you say, yes, I honored my father and mother. And through your responses, he weighs your heart against a feather. And if your heart is lighter than a feather, then you're given access. But if it's heavier than a feather, then you're denied access. Did you have these unconscious laws built into you? There's a video I just released on the Richard Grannon Philosophy channel. It's a bit of Nietzsche. It's from Thus Spake Zarathustra, and it's from a chapter called The Three Metamorphoses. And it's Nietzsche's description through the mouth of Zarathustra as to how we develop as human beings, how we can move forward and become stronger versions of ourselves, the real authentic versions of ourselves. And one of those, you go from a camel to a lion to a child. And when you are a lion, you learn to beat the dragon that tells you you must, that tells you thou shalt, that tells you obey, that you carry around inside of you. So part of your individuation process is to become a camel and be disciplined and to bear heavy burdens with humility and great strength. Then to be an individualized, roaming, ferocious lion who says no to everything, including duty to country, to parents, to religion, to church, in the name of individuation. This lion that you must become says no to everything. It's terrifying, utterly terrifying suggestion. Then to become a light and playful child so that we can create anew, so we can imagine a new world and a new self for ourselves. Just check it out. It's on the Richard Grannon Philosophy channel, and it's Nietzsche teaches us to say no, or something like that. So yeah, I think that's what's happening. I suspect that that's what's happening, is there's a big taboo there. So do the emotional literacy exercises, allow yourself to grieve, process the emotions, and break the taboo. Roots Home says, be more wolf. I like it. Kat asks, Richard, how can I tell whether I'm socializing inappropriately? I don't know. If the police are called, I usually take that as a sign that I've been socializing inappropriately again. The police tell me you've been socializing inappropriately again, Mr. Grannon, or whether I'm overthinking due to my internal shame. And should I even care? Well, no, you should care. You should care. With these new videos that I released on the Philosophy channel, there's like a new cycle of 4 of them. People thought I was saying, don't care what other people think. I can't think of a situation where that would be wise or kind or functional or fair. I literally can't think of a single situation where you simply don't care what other humans think. If you're in a time machine, like in Inglourious Bastards, and you go back to Hitler's bunker, the cinema where they assassinated Hitler and his henchmen, and you're like, I don't care what these Nazis think. Well, that's stupid. So even in the most extreme situation of adversary, you should still care what your adversaries think, because you need to know how to beat them. You need to know how to kill them. So there's no situation where you shouldn't care what other people think. I hear this a lot, and I think it's really, I think it's, I understand what people mean, but it's a low resolution analysis of strength. You know, people think I don't care what other people think, and I'm like, that's just not true. I'm not dominated by the opinions of others. I'm not bullied tyrannically by other people's tastes and pleasures. That doesn't mean I don't care what other people think. I mean, that sounds like a shortcut to psychosis and delusion. I mean, like, so you should care. And if you get the sense that you're acting inappropriately, you should consider rationally that you are. Not everything is a mental health response. Not everything is childhood trauma, CPTSD, emotional flashbacks. Maybe you are acting inappropriately when you're socializing. It's not the worst thing in the world. It happens. We all do it. Everybody's awkward at some point. Everybody can say and do stuff that's inappropriate or doesn't match the situation. If you're trying to be funny, if you're trying to be charming, you take risks. Not every risk pays off. C'est la vie, c'est la guerre. I mean, you know, we just have to deal with it. So no, you should if you feel that way, you can have a rational conversation with yourself and be like, I don't know, I kind of feel like I'm making other people uncomfortable. Do I need to tone it down? Am I being too loud? Am I dominating the conversation? Am I not listening enough? Am I too drunk? You said socializing. I don't know exactly what you mean. Certainly if you're in an environment where you're getting negative feedback from the environment, occasionally you will be surrounded by twerps. That can happen, but it's occasional. More than likely, and this is, let's use our reasoning and statistical minds, if more humans are saying that you're in the wrong than you as adults, unless there's an agenda there to be fulfilled, like you're socializing inside of a cult, let's not be silly billies about this. If you're just out socializing and everybody's like, yeah, you're kind of acting like an idiot right now, then it just, in good faith and all humility, say, oh, maybe I don't understand your culture, or you don't do this in this country, or wherever it is, and change it up for sure. Socializing implies making a connection and building rapport with other people. If they're giving you a feedback that they're not feeling your vibe, change the vibe. Okay. All right, here we go. Tolly asks, how can we get a foot through the productivity door when our amygdalas are enlarged and we have no executive function? You can't. You can't. If you have no executive function, executive function, this came about through me running the forum that lasted like 5 weeks, and then we closed it down. And then feedback from Deef, who runs the YouTube channel called Visceral Gravitas, where you'll see clips of me and you'll see clips of Sam Backnin and different people. And he stated that he thought that I had superhuman levels of discipline, and that's why my healing process was a little bit more straight lined. And as I know myself, I know that that's not true. So I followed a line of inquiry. Thanks for the question, Tolly. To be like, well, what have I missed? Like, what could I have had that I assume other people have, but they don't? And that's where I came up with the idea. No, there's two things that even at my worst, I still had. that I don't think other people have. And this is based on stuff I saw on the forum as well. I was like, God damn, what is this? So the two things that I had, even at my most, I don't even know what I was I depressed? I think I had a breakdown. I think when I was in Malaysia, I basically I was just screwed. I think it was a break. I think it's what we used to call a nervous breakdown when I was like 33, 34. But I still had my executive function operating at like 30 to 40%. I'm not going to get into the full thing of executive function right now. It basically means your ability to get things done. Executive, execute, executor, function, functionality. So I could retain information. I could emotionally regulate to a degree. These are all elements. Anybody can go look it up. What is executive function? There's a Wikipedia page. It will tell you 7 parts of executive function. So I could emotionally regulate. I could retain information, and I could finish tasks. It was hard, really, really brutally hard, but I could. And the second thing I had was I had an okay relationship with myself. I started a sense of humor, even though I was completely screwed. I still retained a sense of humor, and I still had what I would consider, comparative to what I see in other people, an okay relationship with myself. So I could talk me to me and not have it be catastrophic. This is why I developed the new course, because I'd not seen that before. I'd not clicked before. This is a bit of solipsism. The new course is the Loving in a Guide course, which specifically is designed to help you with your executive function and your relationship with yourself. So I would say if your executive function is gone, I don't know about the amygdala being enlarged, or if you've got hippocampal shrinkage or whatever, all of that would change with emotional regulation anyway. But if your executive function is destroyed, productivity is going to do nothing but aggravate you. So first things first, you must repair the executive function first. And, that will take its own time. That will be its own process, but it's worth it, because otherwise we're like a bucket with holes in. And everything we do is going to have failure written into the source code, because what's one of the major elements of executive function? Super low resilience. As you become more productive, there are more pressures and demands made of you, more stress, you'll fall apart. So if you're productive and you suck, you'll beat yourself up for sucking because you have poor executive function. If you're productive and you succeed, you will fall apart because the stress of your success will create a collapse, because you have no internal structural integrity. So you've got to deal with the executive function issue first and foremost. Okie dokie, hit me with another question. We're at 38 minutes. Questions can be slightly sillier now. I don't mind. They can be about odder things, aliens, anything. Don't ask me about aliens. Whatever you like. Being capable of, UG Rose says, being capable of ego syntonic, make me feel good about me behavior takes practice when abuse encourages self-abandonment. This is true. This is true. Okay. Good Mother says, I'm not going to read that out. You're crazy. Do you want me to get cancelled? Because this is how people get cancelled. Visceral Gravitas is here. Self-determination theory breaks down 3 major skills into competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Executive function equals competence. Relationship with self is relatedness, and autonomy a sense of self. That's great. Never heard of self-determination theory. Thank you. Everybody go and follow Visceral Gravitas on YouTube, please. It will be a rewarding experience for you. Question, how do you manage shame and humiliation around a previous abusive relationship? Me personally, the major breakthrough for me was when I stopped trying to be all tough and proud about it. It was one of those moments where I think vulnerability is fetishized now as sort of like a magic pill. which it really isn't. Like, telling the truth is way more powerful than vulnerability. If your vulnerability causes you to tell the truth, the amazing transformative thing that you've done was tell the truth, not being vulnerable. It's like we've identified. But it's important, but not that important. But in this instance, it was very important. One of the few instances I found in my own process. And it was when I admitted several embarrassing things about my relationships, plural, the two really bad relationships that I've been through. And it was something like, I admitted that I'd completely failed to make the relationship work, and I'd had to quit. I'd had to quit because I failed. That was tough. These things were a total waste of time. They were built of delusion and nonsense. I was tricked by cheap hucksters who exploited my my immature lust and desire for love. They completely battered me, and it took me ages to recover. And I just went through a list, and it's like the opposite of positive thinking. This was ultra negative thinking. This was Kierkegaard. It's time to embrace despair to achieve unit, or to achieve an encounter with the authentic self. Let's go Kierkegaard. So that's what helped me, was I just listed all of the embarrassing things that I'd been hiding from. This relationship beat the shit out of me. It stole years from my life. It damaged my confidence. It damaged my sense of self. It made me hate people. It made me hate love. It made me hate women. It made me hate sex. It made me hate, I don't know, rainbows. I don't know. I just went through it. I just went through like, this is how crazy and stupid this whole thing was, and this is how wretched it made me. And I felt so much better after that, because I just admitted it instead of denying it. I was like, oh, I feel like a complete effing clown. You know, I feel so stupid. Why did I ruin my life? Because I thought someone was pretty and they had a nice body shape. Really? How stupid are you? You know? So it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, but facing that really, really helped me. So as an exercise, I recommend you try it. Admit what you lost. Admit how you screwed up. Stop pretending that you did nothing wrong. Stop blaming them all the time. Doesn't mean that they're not wrong. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's like this thing with victimhood culture. Many people really are victims. I mean, I'm a victim, but do you see me acting like a fucking victim? Do you want to hear my sad stories of childhood sexual abuse? How I was stalked as a child and eventually sodomized? Do you want to hear that? You know, that's not my identity. That's not, you know, I don't structure my life around negative experiences that happen to me. I don't internalize it. I don't make that, you know, oh, for the rest of my life, I just hate this thing a bit. Great, well done. Now what? Now, you know, you went through something awful, and now you're just going to ruin your whole life. We don't have to identify with it. We have choices. We have a way that we can respond. We have choices. And that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing, that we have some agency, we have some sovereignty. Childhood sexual abuse is like one of the worst things that a person can do. You know, it destroys the child's innocence. It terrifies them. It demeans them. It humiliates them, and so on and so forth. But I don't know. Like, yeah. So technically, were you a victim? Yeah. If you asked me to write a police report, I'm the victim on a police report. But are you, Richard, a victim? Fuck off. Are you? Go make me a cup of tea, you twat. I'll give you a victim. I'll give you a victim clap round the air. So we do dumb stuff. We make painful decisions. And bad things happen. And that's life. We don't have to identify with it. But we should admit it. We should, like, if you screwed up, it's embarrassing. Like, in my case with my exes, I'm like, oh God, really? And then she said, what did she say? Oh God. And what did you tell her? Oh God, why didn't you just throw her out? Why didn't you just throw her out? It was your house. Why wouldn't you? But it's all very well, it's all very well doing that now. I didn't, because the shape of the individual I was, and the color and the texture and the entity that I was, and the beliefs that I had on that day in my past, when I had that confrontation, I had that conversation, is different to now. The person now wouldn't put up with it, but the person then felt, I don't know, like, what series of beliefs does a person need to stay in an obviously abusive relationship where they're being demeaned? You need to feel worthless. You need to feel like you're not even worth protecting. You're not even worth fighting for. You're utterly worthless. And this other person has all the value in the world because they're so wonderful. You would need to believe that fighting is wrong, that conflict is wrong, that demanding that people respect your boundaries is wrong. You would need to believe that giving up on relationships is wrong. I had all this crap running around in my head. I don't even know where I picked it up from. I wouldn't, in my last 2 relationships, I'm not recognizable as a human entity now. I've changed so fundamentally. You can even look at pictures of me. Like, my fucking facial structure has changed. My hair color I'm really changed. And I look at it and I go, I wouldn't put up with what I put up with there for years for 10 minutes now. Not for 10 minutes. I wouldn't put up with it. I wouldn't even get through a date. I wouldn't even get through the first date with either of these people. But at the time, they were the center of my universe. What's that about? That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day. Let's have another question. Hi, Richard. Hiya. Can you tell me about the new course and how it is compared to STS? Will it trigger me to hell if I do it? STS is the Summoning the Self course. The Summoning the Self course, you must have done 30 days of emotional literacy first. Only because when I designed the Summoning the Self course, it's to reverse, it's very grandiose, my ambition for an online course, which is to reverse a lifetime of trauma and abuse. So the trauma and abuse you've experienced was so bad that you eradicate yourself in order to survive. And then through a course, we're going to bring the self back. I'm just setting the context for you. Think in terms of leverage. How much must I provoke the reader, the consumer, the person who takes the course in order to motivate them to undo a lifetime of trauma and self-negation? The answer is a lot. It's a lot. But if you've done the Summoning the Self course, just say in the comments, it's not, you won't be shuddering and crying. You won't be grieving for days. But I get you to do an exercise. Like, I think one of the first exercises is write a list out of the people who trigger you into a fawn response. Write their names down on a piece of paper. The people who trigger you into total codependency. Now, whilst you won't shudder and cry and be like, oh my God, no one's ever loved me, with like snot. And, we could do exercises like that if you want to. But you will be like, oh, fuck, it's not going to feel nice. That's not a pleasant ride, but you can hack it if you're emotionally literate. The new course is Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It's for babies. It's for babies. I think it's like 6 videos, 4 written exercises, 2 audios. They're at the opposite end of the spectrum between the Summoning the Self and this new course. In terms of the demand on you, they're at the opposite end of the spectrum. Nobody should be triggered by this course. You don't need to have done emotional literacy work first. It's kind of, this mode that I adopt sometimes, where like, this is how I would have taught in secondary school. So if you were a bright 16-year-old, you'd get this. It's at that level. So if the Fortress mental health stuff doesn't trigger you, this new course won't trigger you. Real simple, real straight, but it insists on certain things that you must do, but it's not painful. I mean, if no, nobody will be getting upset by this new course, but then of course it's more cosmetic. The Summoning the Self is not a cosmetic course. It's deep. This course is a little more cosmetic. It's really like it's more of a catalyst for people who are stuck or who regularly get stuck in therapy. And it's like, okay, do this course. It'll take you a week and you'll get through your therapy faster. It's also got therapists in mind. So I will be saying to therapists and counselors, get the course, do whatever you want with your clients with this course. If you bought it, give it to your clients, work through it with your clients. I don't care. Just don't change it. Just credit me. I don't care what you do with it, because it's lightweight, but it's clear and it's functional. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the Summoning the Self course is pretty deep. It's pretty deep, but you'll survive it. You've been following me for years. Get on with it, mate. Come on. Trust yourself. Have a little faith in yourself, yeah? Pepini 30. Do you thin people who were abused in childhood become over-sexualized? Is there a connection? Apparently there is. There can be. It can hypersexualize the child in inappropriate ways. I personally am pretty conservative with this one. I don't really think. I think children should be protected from all sexual material as far as possible until it becomes negligent to do so. And even then, it should be very, very, very bland. No good came from me being hypersexualized as a child. It's not served me well in my life. I actually really think it's taken me to my 43rd year to get over it. Just the hypersexualization. It's taken me this long to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's a problem. And that's been a problem for some fucking time. Because I just came to realize, like, people aren't as obsessed as I am. And so I've been doing work on that for, well, on and off, I guess, for probably about 8 years. And then now I'm finally like, oh yeah, oh, that feels nice. That's like that's a release. That kind of heavy adult energy doesn't belong anywhere near a child. Doesn't belong anywhere near a child at all. It's like giving a kid drugs or something. It's just insane. We're going to philosophy. I'm ready for it. I'm here for it. Next will be conspiracy theories, aliens, films, and the worst jokes of all time. Demian Vukovic. Dobry dan. No. Dobry den. No. Dobre nighttime. Sorry. Are you a free will person or a determinism person? People used to ask me this all the time. I was crossing the road the other day and I was thinking about getting hit by a car or something like that. And not that I wanted to get hit by a car, it just occurred to me. And I had a little wry smile to myself because I thought, oh, nobody's asked me about free will for a while. You know what? I'll be honest with you. There are some things in philosophy that some people get really, really caught on and really excited by. And this one leaves me cold. It leaves me totally cold. I cannot think of a more pointless argument. Maybe it's I don't understand it, or it just doesn't resonate with my personality now, and maybe it will in like 10 years' time. I don't see what it changes. Because if it's determinism, how does it change my subjective experience? I still think I'm making the decisions, right? But I'm determined to think that I'm making those decisions. So it's exactly the same in the end as fucking free will. And you'd be like, no, because objectively in one you have free will and in one you're, oh, well, objectively, objectively, I don't live objectively. I live subjectively. I'm stuck in this body for now. I'm hermetically sealed inside of here until the dying day. So I don't give a F whether it's predetermined or not. I've, what my subjective experience is it feels largely like free will. And then a couple of things pop up in your life and you think, oh, that seems like it was predetermined, but I don't know, mate. Does it matter? Is it not all written by the hand of the Almighty? Tehana says, do you think OCD is rooted in toxic shame? I think OCD is a manifestation of a flashback. I did an interview about OCD recently. Now, what did I say? Because it sounded dead clever when I said it, and I want to sound clever again. Wait a second. I said OCD is the cousin of dissociation. So with dissociation, you get out, you escape the stress of the present moment and the demands of the present moment through daydreaming. And in OCD, you escape the stress and the demands of the present moment by pouring yourself into a task. I said something like that. And I thought, when I said it, I heard myself say it. And I was like, hey, lad, that sounds quite clever. That, sounds like you know what you're going on about. So I went, no, lads, I don't even know where it came from and that. I was just say nothing, lad. Just say nothing. They don't know. Well, they do now. That's what happens inside my head. Two drunk scousers in a park are trying to decide what psychological remedies to go up with next. Two drunk scousers. Pauline says, do you realise you're a breath of fresh air, Mr. Grannon? That's very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you. Sharon says, again, OCD would be you pouring yourself obsessive compulsively into a thing, a fetish. This is what fetish is. Fetish is not sexual necessarily. A fetish, because fetishes exist in magic, they exist in voodoo. When you imbue something with power, sexual power, libidinous power, magical power, you fetishize it. So OCD is like pour your psychic, as in psychological, the Jungian term psychic, into this and try. I'm sculpting. I'm just consumed as sculpting, and all the horror in your life and all the terrible things. You're like, no, sculpting, la la la. So your coping strategy would be like the yang to the dissociative's yin, because so Terry is yang and he sculpts and he just pours himself into sculpting and collecting comic books or whatever, and that's the OCD, and he can, any anxiety that comes up, he's like, oh, more sculpting. And then Bob is yin, and any stress that comes up, he does his creative writing, that novel he's working on, and or the song that he's writing, and he can dissociate, or he just has fantasies of being a superhero or something like that. So they're adjacent. Terry and Bob. Terry, the coach from Spartan Life Coach, does actually collect comics, but that's not because he has OCD. He just loves comics. He's available for coaching at the moment. You can message him, terry@spartanlifecoach.com, as is Steve. You can message him at steve@spartanlifecoach.com. There's an ad break for you. Here's another ad break. Please buy the new course, The Loving Inner Guide, over at spartanlifecoach.com now. Now available for $34.99. Here we go. Claire Racing says, please answer. So I don't know if you can see what I can see, but there's just a ton of questions just bombing down from the top of the screen down to the bottom, and I have to scroll through them. So instead of saying please answer, just copy and paste your question again and again, and just hammer the comments like you're the USA enforcing peace and democracy. Just keep bombarding it until I see it, or we all die. Disassociative ritualism. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's good, that. Disassociative ritualism. It's all right, that. I don't know if that's yours. If it is yours, I like that. If it's not yours, I still like it, but you don't get any credit. Ace Hataki. Ace Hataki, that's a great name, Ace. How to recover sense of humor and self-belief aside from medication. There is no medication. After going through full-blown first episode psychosis from narcissistic manipulation. Whoa. I do not give advice on people, for people who've gone through psychotic episodes. You won't get decent advice on YouTube on how to deal with that. You should seek the services of a qualified mental health professional, of which I am not one. Just a little YouTube content creator talking about relevant topics. Veracity Trigger. Just some names tonight. Veracity Trigger. How do you or should young men grow in life if they don't have fathers or have had them taken away at an early age? Well, I can only tell you how I did it, which was maladaptively and psychotically. How should they? Well, it would be better if they didn't. It would be better if the father was there. All of us need both of our parents there, ideally in some sort of safe, emotionally regulated structure throughout our childhood up until the age of 18 at least. And there's no substitute for that. So there will always be a deficiency if the father is not there. Sorry to tell you, but that's just the way it is. It's like saying, what happened? This person's not going to have any oxygen for about 15 hours. What is there a psychological technique? No, they will be dead. Dead, diddly dead. In the same way, I had a distant and indifferent father who spent most of his time philandering and cheating on my mother and disappearing to various places. It damaged me. What can I say? The fantasy that we're also supposed to, like, politically correct. Oh yeah, no, a mum can do all the work. A single dad can be a mum and fucking it's not true. Like, if you have to, okay, do your best, be a good Spartan, be courageous, maintain a sense of humor, do the best job you can, and all power to you. But we mustn't lie and say it's the same. It's not the same. I have suffered terribly in my life because of my father's total disinterest in me, because I then sought out other father figures. Many of them were criminals and gangsters and all kinds of. I look back on them and just see a bunch of dysfunctional adolescent boys in men's bodies. But at the time, that was all I knew, and that was all I had. So no, it's not. How do or should young men grow? As best as they can. But I will not proliferate the nonsensical idea that they can be just fine without fathers. It's not true. It simply isn't true. Okay, questions. What do you think about synchronicities and their place in guiding an individual through life? They will guide you nowhere. They will guide you to the asylum. I had this question. I'm laughing because I had this question on Instagram the other day. I'm extremely dismissive of synchronicities. I do nothing to encourage synchronicities. In fact, I'd rather they all went away. I don't like signs. I don't like messages. Nope. Did all that for years. And I was a useless. I wish I could swear, but I know that YouTube punishes you now. It throttles the videos. I was a useless F when I was into all that stuff. Just totally. I just never couldn't grow up. Couldn't face reality. Chatting to angels, reading tarot cards, and seeing synchronicities everywhere, whilst my not quite stripper but exotic dancer girlfriend ate my lunch. Yeah, nah, you can keep all that Tommy rot. You can keep it all. Synchronicities. I mean, I'm not going to get into a rant. I do really have a lot of time for Jung, much more than I used to. Jung, Jung, but he's led some people astray. He's led people astray. He's proliferated the usefulness of synchronicities. Where is you Velociraptor? Where's it ever led you? Where has it led you? Are your phone bills paid? Are your socks clean? Is your house in order? Is your life in order? Where's it lead? They don't lead. There's nothing there. You're chasing rainbows and fairy dust. I think it's a trick. If you want a spiritual perspective on it, I think it's a test of it's just a distraction. All these things are a distraction. They're a distraction. So synchronicities is fluff. Plus, it's right next door to psychosis. These ideas are called synchronicity. It's narcissism, because you think the effing universe is talking to you. There's nothing more narcissistic than that. But there's actually, I think it's called ideas of reference plus confirmation bias, and you can train your brain to see them. Plus, you wire your reward system for them, because you're like, oh my God, there's the number 971, and there's the pink camel again. That means I'm walking my angel's path. Are you? Where's it leading you? Where have you been led to? What are you doing? What do you produce? What value do you have in the world? What value are you receiving? Are you living a good life? What does it lead to? Nothing. Nothing. An empire of nothingness and rot. Not a fan of synchronicities. Not a fan of people who advocate following them like there's meaning in them. It'll drive you mad. It will drive you mad. Everybody who goes down that path goes completely bonkers. Fact. Daisy Bell. Daisy Bell. I'm going to get you right. It's fun. That's the problem with you kids. You think it's all a bloody joke, don't you? Until the demons come. Not laughing now, are you? It's not fun. It's nonsense. Pareidolia. Yeah, it'll drive you mad. What influence did Dostoevsky's works have on you? I love that you think I have read the works of Dostoevsky. I am battling my way through the Brothers Karamazov. I am, according to Kindle, 70% in there. I don't think a book, it's a big book, obviously, it's a long one, but I don't think a book has ever taken me so long to read in my life. I've read Zizek's books faster than this. Brothers Karamazov is the one I'm on. What impact? It's made me want to write again. It's made me reconsider what I think social structure can be and should be. It's made me reconsider the whole of psychoanalysis. The whole of psychoanalysis is for me is in question. The validity of psychoanalytic theory is in question. It's done amazing things. There's never been a book I've read that has altered so much for me in such a profound way. But the works of Dostoevsky, no. After this, I'm going to read Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian again for the 5th time. And then I'm going to read Slavoj Žižek's new book, Pandemic. All right, we're an hour and 10. Any questions you like now? We're at the tail end. Crazy questions, whatever you like. So Richard Grannon, some of us are Pisces people fans, and does it disturb you if that's why we like you? No, not at all. Not at all. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. I said synchronicities was the problem. Synchronicities specifically. Astrology and everything else, that's different. That's a different thing. But people being led by synchronicities, goodness me. How do you get on with Legos? I love Legos. When I was a kid, I liked to make I like to make double barrel sawn off shotguns out of Legos. I love that. Leos, oh, they're a pain in the arse. Absolutely, it's all about them, isn't it? Oh, bloody Leos. Never put two Leos under the same roof. I'm only telling you what the spirits are telling me. Yeah, I had a girlfriend who was a Leo. Whew. When was that? 2019 to 2020, that was. And I've still got the claw marks to show for it. Yeah, Leos, they're great, aren't they? Yeah, yeah. What about Libra? Don't know any Libros. Libros. I'm reading a few Libros at the moment. Virgos. Yeah, my stepdad's a Virgo. I quite like Virgos. Yeah, they're all right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Hey, lads. Hey, Mo. Mo, lads. Lads. Lads, what are you doing? I've got 3 rocks for 28 kids. Come on, bring the pipe. Are you familiar with Jodorowsky? Pierre showed me some Jodorowsky once. Taurus, yeah, dated a Taurus. My mum's a Taurus as well. Yeah, yeah. You're cracking me up. Redhead Writing Hood says, you're cracking me up, lads. Thanks, Richard. Oh, you know what? You know what, girl? You know what? You are welcome. That's what you are. Welcome. Taurus. Potent's a Taurus. I didn't know that. How's Lawrence? Any more plans to work with him? He's fit. He's fit. I don't mind. I told him today, I said, lad, you're fit. Because he posted a picture of himself in a black vest, looking all muscular and buff. And sometimes I'll just tell my male friends, I'll just be like, you're fit, you are, lad. Do you know what that means? It means, what do Americans say for fit? Hot. Yeah. He's busy at the moment. He's trying to finish his PhD. I now can't go back to the UK. We've got a mutual friend who makes films, and we're going to do a film together, but I can't go back. So I think she's going to do some test footage, and I'm going to try and do it remotely. Otherwise, we would have gone back and interviewed him again. Yeah. You can follow Lawrence Westgaff on Instagram under the name @Westgaff, and you should follow Lawrence's Facebook group, Liverpool Slavery History. It's really good, and he does tours, and they're great, and he's a great historian, and also he's fit. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind telling him. Do you know what I mean? Everybody needs a little boost every once in a while. What difference does it make if it comes from a lad or it comes from a girl? You know, I'm not going to lie. I might just be like, you're fit, you are, lad. Question. Cat for cats. I've always been masculine minded. What it means. By both parents. Raised by both parents. But with an abusive... Sorry. I'm laughing at masculine minded. I wasn't laughing at this. Just trying to think I think I'm quite tired now. What's masculine? What's masculine minded? Okay, sensible. Right. I've always been. It's a trigger now. It's a trigger now. I've always been that. Look, she thinks that's her impression. You respect the impression of the person you're talking to, don't you? I do, yeah. Okay, well now, you're going to be sensible. I do my best. Okay, I've always been masculine minded, raised by both parents. And this is the part that's not funny. This is why I don't do coaching anymore. This is wrong. This is bad. Okay. My mother claims to be masculine minded. She's good at parking cars. She's a good driver. She used to be in a rifle club. Plenty of hand-to-eye coordination. Very good tennis player. Got such a high level in squash that she went into the men's division once for, where was it? I think it was in the Northeast, and then beat the top player in the county, which must have pissed them off. Yeah, masculine minded, man mind. Well, that's a great name for a course. Man mind. Okay. But an abusive, non-nurturing mother, what effects might that have had? Well, so you told me you feel like you have a masculine mind, which is something my mum says, and you've got an abusive, non-nurturing mother, which I think was the case for my mum as well. So you're in a situation where you're not getting that kind of soft, mothering, nurturing love, what Shakespeare called the milk of human kindness. Name that play. I won't have a bunch of pseudo intellectuals following me. If you can't name that play, we're going to fall out. The milk of human kindness. So there's that more nurturing style, but she wasn't there for that. So she presumably, level one, showed up as a masculine woman because she wasn't nurturing, which is odd, with her daughter, which is a bit odd. So then you would have internalized the idea, this is how women are. See this woman here? Aye. She's biologically female. Aye. You see how the other little girls are? Aye. And their mothers are like that. Oh, yeah. My mum's like that. Well, that's my mum. She's not like the other mothers. I'm going to be like that. And so level one would be you would internalize that as role model, level one. Level two would be, because you didn't get that kind of love, it gets a little bit more complicated. So the way that we love ourselves is modeled through the way our parents love us. So if you accept that you have like an internal mother and an internal father, which I suspect we do have something like that, or the internal mother, internal father, the capacity to offer ourselves love in a more yin, and a capacity to offer ourselves love in a more yang, right? So you then wouldn't have had much yin internally, level two. So you're actually not capable of offering yourself nurturing love, or and possibly even other people, I don't know. So that would be the two level effects, I suspect. Competitors, I have competitiveness with men, and is that bad? Yeah, just like me ma. Is it bad to? It's not bad to compete with men. No, you can do whatever you want. I mean, as long as like it's good natured and you're not, it's all above board. Like competitiveness can be, you could be sporting about it, or you could be cutthroat and nasty about it. But if you're being sporting about it, no, I don't think it's bad. It's not bad at all. It's probably a healthy thing, especially in the future we're all moving into. Starship Troopers, I'm telling you. D. Williams says, I always transpose Macbeth and Hamlet, but it's good enough for me that you know it was from one of those two tragedies. It's good enough for me. But eventually, D. Williams, without looking it up, you're going to write in the comments what the correct answer is. The milk of human kindness. Okay, the milk of human kindness, by the way. You wee cheeky bastard. Where's the milk of human kindness? How was your experience with the BPD call friend, Richard? Oh, God. Frodo, throw the ring into the fire. Was it easy? No. We don't talk of the olden times. To distinguish from NPD. Well, I didn't know the terms then. I didn't know BPD until 2014. It's new to me. A lot of these things are new to me. Like CPTSD, I think I only learned about in 2014. It's all new. I'm new to this. I'm relatively speaking. It was someone like Sam Backman who's been doing it since the 90s. Ross Rosenberg was on here, I think, like nearly 10 years, or maybe 10 years before. Well, it couldn't be 10 years because it's 2013. YouTube didn't exist then, but 5, 6, 7. This is like, so like I'm new to all this. So I didn't know. But once I found out, I was like, oh, okay. And the thing is, if you look at the cluster B disorders, What do we know about them? They all tend to be comorbid with other PDs, and they're frequently comorbid with other PDs in the cluster B. So you do get lots of NPDs who are BPD, lots of BPDs who are HPD, and lots of HPDs who are also ASPD. That's a lot of PBD-DDs. How was your experience? It was bloody awful. Bloody awful. Soul destroying, I think. Ace Ataki, what's your gym routine? I want them Grannon gains, please. Thank you. Always do legs every time I go in. Probably in 4 or 5 times a week. Always do 10,000 steps every day as a minimum. Bike pretty much every day. I'll try and get in the gym 4 or 5 times a week, as I say. And then if I go in, it'll be either a push or a pull on legs. I have to do legs all the time because I've got physio on my left leg that I've got to get through. It'll be another year. Every day is leg day. Every day is some sort of cardio. And then it will probably, I don't know, it would depend. It really depends. I don't follow like a strict, I don't write them down. I'll just be like, when did we last do shoulders? What did we do? Okay, let's do this. What did you do? Chest and back today, and calves and hamstrings. Okay, let's do that. Oh, we haven't done glutes. And you know, I remember somebody describing it to me, saying like the perfect training cycle doesn't fit into 7 days. A perfect training cycle requires a 10-day week. So you get guys who are like far more dedicated and serious than me, and they'll actually not schedule a bro split over 7 days. To hit all the body parts properly, the number of times you need to, they do a 10 or 11 day. Anyway, yeah, I just go in the gym and I just lift things up and down. I lift myself up and down. I do a lot of body weight stuff as well. And I'm back doing kickboxing. Lift the heavy thing up, put it down, make the muscle grow. How long are you in the gym in one day? It's hard to get in and out of the gym inside of an hour. I try to, because it can kill me the next day. If I'm left to my own devices, I can easily spend an hour doing weights and then an hour doing kickboxing, but I try not to do that because I don't feel very good afterwards. How do you feel about DID? How do I feel? I feel like it doesn't exist in the way it's described, and that it was probably a mistaken model of diagnosis fueled by a book that alleged to be academic but that was actually quite fictional in the late 80s. And people don't talk about it that much. Recently, within the last 4 or 5 years, I looked up some research on DID, and they interviewed, this is American psychologists, and they said that 30% of American psychiatrists felt that DID did not exist at all. I do have like a video that I rehearsed and planned on DID. I think something like it happens. But the devil is in the details, and the nuance makes a big difference. So the way we see it described in films is bollocks, for reasons that I won't go into here. If people are interested in it, I'll do a video on it. I can convince you in 20 minutes that it's a self-denying model. The model contradicts itself. Like you can't simultaneously remember and forget at the same time. You can't simultaneously be aware and unaware at the same time. The nearest you can get to that is a confabulation, but even that I think is sketchy. Are there different parts of you that hold different functions? Sure. That's adequately covered by parts theory, though. Dissociative identity disorder. yes, it exists if we take a very charitable interpretation of what it claims to be. But for me, I would just say, look, that's yeah. When people are in different emotional flashbacks, they exhibit different personality traits. But the idea that as they shift through those personality traits, they're forgetting what the different personalities are and do is the stuff of movies and books. It's just, oh, I so want to swear. I mustn't. Can my 18-year-old daughter be a narcissist? Are you asking if I give her permission? Yes, I do. She can. Her dad is one. I have left him, and we're all trying to heal. I'm trying to convince her to have counselling. She could have developed narcissistic defences, and yeah, she could potentially be developing NPD. It is possible. Under which circumstances I would say yes. Seeing a counsellor would be wise. Oh. P-Wing says, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how these money things work. I click them and then I can see your question. I'm so sorry, guys. I just figured that out. I'm actually not very technologically literate. I agree with you in part about syntonically, but it depends on the context of the paradigm in which it is being utilized. For example, in the sense of New Age, this can be dangerous because there is no structural balance. That was P-Wing. Casey Barrero sent me money. That's very kind. You don't need to send me money, guys, but I appreciate it. Thank you. When you actually spend time with a seriously mentally ill person, you will see the difference. What do you know about Krav? I've done some Krav. Yeah. Bit of Krav. It's combatives in it. That's what I was teaching people for years, was combatives. It was very, very similar stuff. Stripped down, easy to teach, easy to learn. Oh, good point. And the alters of DID require forgetting from what it's depicted as, like in the famous Med Circle video. The woman's alter is so different, but she apparently doesn't have control. Yeah. Unfortunately, in the environment, if in the environment we reward people for role playing, then they will role play. They'll do that. I will do the DID video eventually. I need to dig out my notes on it because I actually can't remember. There was like something in the intrinsic structure of dissociative identity disorder just is self-negating. It just doesn't make sense. And it was to do with remembering and forgetting at the same time, and being aware and unaware at the same time. It's just not possible. I'd like you to say F diagnoses. We are spiritual beings that are experiencing a human experience. Absolutely, sir. Can't DID be caused by brain trauma? When you have symptoms that look like DID that are caused by brain trauma, I'm not, and then you say, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think you're talking about the micro concussions, and then people show up and their personalities get really odd. What was that film with Will Smith? Rather terrible African accent. Maybe it was just called Concussed. So those micro lesions on the brain, I don't think you would call that DID. I don't think you would. I think you would say, this is, God, I can't. I've had it. I've got it. What do you call it? TBI. TBI. You would just say this is a symptom of TBI. Rocky Stone says you don't have to forget chronologically. It can be emotional, will, or body amnesia. You could not remember how you felt at the time. Emotional memory loss. But that's not how DID is described. It's dissociative identity. And what you're describing is just CPTSD and emotional flashbacks. So if dissociative identity disorder is to have meaning, it needs to be discrete from the disorders around it. If it's not discrete from the disorders around it, it's not a differentiated diagnosis, which is a problem with a lot of mental health. Even if somebody was pretending to have DID, surely that's indicative of some kind of disorder in itself. Yeah, unless they're being paid or they think they're going to be the subject of a book or a film. Is that a disorder? I don't know. Can you disassociate from your own identity? And what does that mean? Or do you just mean you were in a really strong mood and you felt differently about the world? Or are you claiming you have a different person inside of you that you don't know and don't remember? Or are you claiming that there's a control room that you go to and there's one alter who controls 17 other alters? I mean, come on now. Come on. In Last Kingdom, they had a guy with a huge head wound that went from being an absolute jerk to being a nice guy. Yeah, traumatic brain injuries can have big personality impacts. Hey, Richie, Pergunta, have you seen Crazy Wise, the film? It deals with spiritual emergency, psychosis, and how it might be related to consciousness evolution. I haven't seen it. I will look it up. Can you speak more on the mode of knowing and not knowing in relation to toxic relationships? Yes, and this is probably a useful place to stop. So there are thoughts we have about the world, and those thoughts have a structure and a boundary. And that structure and a boundary is a good thing. You have a wall and it keeps that which should be inside of the wall in. But it's also a limitation. So we have taboos, we have things that we mustn't think, and then we have ideas that we're very, very attached to. Sometimes it is worth learning to think the unthinkable, to think the unthinkable. One of the things that I'm moving towards with this channel, and I think many of you have picked this up, is I'm encouraging you to think the unthinkable about psychology, which is that the true taboo here might be that an awful lot of what we think we know and an awful lot of what we think is concluded and is scientifically proven isn't. And if it isn't concluded and it isn't scientifically proven, what does that make it? Similarly with a toxic relationship, what is thinking the unthinkable? Thinking the unthinkable is thinking this person doesn't really love me. Why would we not want to think psychology is not as proven as it seems to be? Well, because that would ruin the whole thing. The whole institution would tumble down and we'd lose it. Now, if we're heavily invested in the institution or our mortgage repayments are invested in the institution, we're going to fight like hell to not have that happen. If you're in a toxic relationship and you losing the relationship means you lose a place to live or you're going to lose half your stuff in a divorce settlement, you'll fight like hell to not have that happen. So then you start having a lot of blind spots, a lot of unthinkable places. Like, I just can't take my mind there. So if you look in the comments, like, this is why I didn't want to answer the DID question. And you'll see in the comments after the video loads, people will come with very, very strong opinions about what dissociative identity disorder is and what it isn't, because they can't think the unthinkable. We must seek evidence. We need to seek proof. So as with the toxic relationship, you must seek evidence. You must seek proof. You have to stay rational. You can't afford the luxury of drifting off into your emotions. No, I feel like this relationship is safe for me. I feel like this diagnosis is valid. Okay. Why? Show me. Show me. Show me evidence. Show me data that this thing is real. Don't just rant and screech and yell emotionally. It's real, it's real, it's real. Show me why. Show me data. Show me references. Be rational. Be reasonable. Give me something. If you have data, you can use that as leverage. You can say, okay, here is data. Here is something that proves it. And there's power in that. There's real power in that. There's very little power in subjectivity. So be courageous and be willing to think the unthinkable. Ladies and gentlemen, we have meandered towards the end of a long live Q&A. I'd like to thank you all very, very much for spending this time with me, for offering me your time and your attention, the two most precious resources that you have. I trust you will guard them well. And I look forward to speaking to you all again very, very soon. Cheers.